Yo, what is going on, guys? Cryptic TMG back with a brand new video. Today we are back around COTA, and you guys might have seen what happened to me in the stream where I got two drive-through penalties back to back. So today was redemption, and I decided to go a little bit further and try and build upon a setup for this track because it is open setup, and let's see if I could put together a consistent lap. This is the best lap I did in quali, and I'll see you guys for the start of the race. So we managed to get a 2:07.3, and we just got picked for pole. Neto in the Porsche actually did a 2:07.1, so a couple of attempts quicker, but I felt our pace was pretty good. The car felt good, and could we get a good start? Because you guys have already seen on this track, for whatever reason, when you start on the outside, you get to the last corner, you just get screwed over with the starting position. So that was annoying me because it was like, you qualify second, but instantly you're already down to third before the race even starts. 30-minute race. Could we get a good start? Now look how far Neto is ahead of us at the start of the race. Now we're supposed to be starting side by side, and the thing is, the moment you speed up to try and catch up before the lights go green, you just get a drive-through. So although we started second, we were actually in third position as the lights went to green, and I needed that at least that second position back. So I'm pretty aggressive in the braking zone, brake towards the apex, kind of pinch the Lambo on the inside so I can get the run around the outside, just about managing to hold position. And I knew that I had to keep second because I had a feeling that Neto would be pretty quick. I did want to try the Porsche around here because I just thought around sort of the first sector through the S's and the last sector, the Porsche is probably pretty quick, and the BMW I would think would make up a lot of time through the middle sector, the straight line, the acceleration out the slow corners. And as you can see, we've got a decent start. The Lambo's actually managing to stick with us, man, because I think in quali we were quite a chunk quicker than the rest of the field, but the guy in the Lambo must have just not got a lap together because he seemed to have decent pace in the race. And Neto actually goes a little bit deep into the hairpin there, and we get a good run. And I knew that my car was pretty fast down the straight. I think in quali I purpled the middle, so I knew this was where my car was fast. Neto tries to escape, goes defensive towards the inside. We have to go towards the outside, and it's going to be pretty tricky to outbrake the Porsche. For whatever reason, since the update, if you've noticed, the BMW has 90% on the brake force, and I don't know, the braking just isn't as good as what it used to be. So you can't, it's pretty tricky to outbrake some of the mid-engine, rear-engine cars, man. It is actually pretty tricky to outbrake them in a BMW. You can see the Porsche gets away as we were a little bit awkward in that slow section, and I have to admit that is the corner that I always struggle with on COTA. No matter the sim that I'm on, always seem to struggle. But I will say is my setup through the last sector was actually pretty decent, and I was mainly able to stick with the Porsche. It was more the first sector where I would lose the time, and I definitely want to try the Porsche myself to see how quick it is, particularly through that section, because I can imagine for me on open setup, the Porsche, it was definitely one of my favorite cars to use. But with the start procedure at the moment at COTA, they definitely need to fix that, man, because it's a joke. It's out of hand, and I'm sick of getting drive-through penalties. It cost me a lot of driver ranking while I was streaming the other day, which you guys saw. So yeah, definitely not the best, but we managed to hold position, and we are in a good position to try and strike. Now, if you did see my stream the other day, you'll notice that I tended to have very strong pace at the end of the stints where people's tires were starting to wear. We seem to really be able to carry our pace all the way through the race. So I was just saying, as long as I can stay within maybe a second and a half, 2 seconds, then we might be able to attack at the end of the race, which was basically my plan. So I had to stay consistent, not make any mistakes, not go too deep in any of the braking zones. That I've noticed on this game, particularly since the update, and I might be wrong, but when you're racing and you might make a mistake, you might go too deep into a corner. It seems once you've gone offline and maybe picked up some marbles or your tires have got dirty or whatever, it's very hard to get back on pace. And I've noticed that, and I've watched streams of other people going off and then their pace just never returns. And yeah, I was just focusing on just trying not to make any mistakes whatsoever, because it's very easily done, very easy to just go way too deep into a braking zone and then you're snookered, or you know, you might brake too hard, go into the ABS, damage your tires a little bit, and then you cannot find the pace again. But at the moment we're doing pretty well. So there's 9 tenths between the top 3, and the guy in third, as I said before, he was sticking with us, man. He had some decent pace, even though he was a lot slower in quali. So I was like, maybe he's a lot faster than he showed in quali and just made the mistake, and now he's got the pace to keep up. But this is just going to be all about consistency, and depending on how good your setup was. That's the thing about open setups. If you've got a decent setup, your pace will generally last the majority of the race. If your setup is just fast for quali, you'll be able to tell, because the car will definitely fade. Even though it's only half an hour, the car will fade. You'll be able to tell people that have a decent setup and people that don't. So I sort of focused on that. When I made the setup, I pretty much made it with full fuel. So, you know, I knew what kind of pace it should be doing, and at the moment it was pretty accurate to what I was expecting. I just had to make sure I didn't get too many off tracks, because it's very easy to do around here. But I do like the first sector. I don't know why people don't like COTA. Generally, I do not know why people don't like COTA. If you look at the sign-ups and the amount of people that sign up for COTA, it's nowhere compared to some of the other tracks, and generally I don't get it. I think it's a good track. I personally think it's a good track. I don't really have much against it. But going towards the end of lap 4 now, about to come into lap 5, you can see Neto in the Porsche, 2 minutes 7.7, absolutely flying, half a second quicker than us in that lap, and he definitely had some crazy pace, man. Like, I had pace, but I had to be a little bit tentative through the S's, because if I got the line just a little bit wrong, I could definitely snap and have a big moment. So I had to be a little bit careful in the first few laps just to make sure that I wasn't getting the line wrong, because you know now with the update, once you sort of overturn the car, or you send it too much, put too much weight on one side of the car, too much weight on certain tires, all of a sudden you can just lose it. So I knew I did have a lot of pace in hand, but at the same time I didn't want to take too many risks. But as I said before, my whole plan was just be able to stick within a decent distance to the guy in front, and see if by the end of the race whether he would start coming back towards me, because normally we had excellent tire wear from what we were doing in the stream on Wednesday. So that was my aim, man. That was my aim. But Neto was very, very fast, man. Very fast. But so far, not too bad. The BMW, you know, I'm enjoying it at the moment. I do want to try some other cars. I wanted to try the Aston, but I just making the setup for it. It was something that I would have had to spend a lot more time on. I can't just throw together a setup for the Aston. Not as easy as I can for the BMW, but I believe the Aston will probably have decent pace as well. And I was more looking to make a setup for the Aston because I'd made a brand new livery, and the Aston is very good on tyres. So you want to be fast towards the end where people's tyres start going off, because literally they can't defend it. There's nothing they can do. You know, they just have a lack of grip. But you can see, like, in the last sector, we're sort of very close. And the Lamborghini behind us, he's sort of started to drop off now. And that's where the setups and having a decent setup comes in very handy. You're going to see, even though he was able to keep pace of us when we were doing, you know, low 2-minute 8s and stuff like that, you're going to see his pace is just going to completely fall away. And that's generally what happens. So he does a 2:09.5, almost 2 seconds. So he probably made a mistake on that lap. And let's see how that's going to affect him. Now moving on to the end of lap 6. Neto does a 2:07.9. I do a 2:08.2. Let's see what the guy behind does. I think he must invalidate his lap so we don't get to see. But he's definitely falling away. And it's as easy as that. That's why it's very hard to stay consistent. But that is the biggest thing, consistency all the way. Even if someone's quicker than you, like for instance, Neto is probably slightly quicker than me around here, but because I can stay consistent, you know, the pressure will always still be on. Even if you're not faster than someone, as long as you can be as consistent, they will never be able to rest, you know. And sometimes that's just what you got to do, man. If you can't master being as fast as some other people, just work on how accurate you can be lap after lap. And that's pretty much, you know, all it's about. That's what sim racing comes down to. You know, it's not all about your raw speed. Raw speed is something a lot of the time that I personally think can't be taught as much. You cannot teach absolute raw speed. Some people just have it, some people don't. But you can teach people reference points. Keep hitting that same reference, repetition. Keep doing the same things over and over and over and over again. And that way you're going to improve as a driver, you know. So these are the things that the everyday person can get better at. You know, you might not be able to do alien speed, but you can definitely improve your consistency and just, you know, have some good reference points around the track. Also as well, guys, I did actually drop this setup for free on my Patreon page. So jump on my Patreon page. You can become a free member to get this setup. And yeah, man, giving away this setup for free. I feel like it was pretty decent. Maybe I might help more people jump on COTA and stop avoiding it, because the track's decent. But I get it, Le Mans is on this week. And whenever the Le Mans, the soft circuit is up, we know literally everybody's just going to be doing that track. And I'm not the biggest fan, so I jump on COTA and just try and grind some races out. At first I thought there was going to be a pit stop in this race, but it's not. But anyway, look at Neto's pace. He's relentless, 2:07.9 again. We do a 2:08.3. The guy behind is completely gone now. I did a 2:11, so I'm taking he's made another mistake. And yeah, that's just how it goes, man. Once you start making one mistake, it's very hard to get the car back into the right window, man. And Neto's kind of starting to pull a gap now, 2.1 seconds. I didn't want it to get bigger than this because, you know, once you feel like you've broken the other driver, you know, you feel like you've broken his will. And once that happens, sometimes you can start to just fall off the pace. You start losing a little bit of concentration. I just wanted to stay on him, so at least there's pressure. So if there was any mistakes, any hiccups, I could be right there and at least try and get back into the slipstream. Because even though when you see a gap of like 2.2 seconds, you know, that's not the gap of actually catching someone. The gap of catching someone is whatever it is to be in their slipstream, which it might be 4 tenths, it might be half a second. So in my mind, I think the gap is 1.5. Even though it says 2.1, to me, I just have to get within slipstream range for me to actually have caught someone. So that's always the way how I think about it. It's sort of like a mental trick I play on myself to try and help me encourage myself to try and catch up. But managed to lap this BMW, and he didn't really make it that easy, man. He could have backed off before the corner so we could have actually protected our line into the corner, but then he just rammed straight into the back of us. Like, I don't know what he was doing. Actually gives us slight rear damage, and generally confused what he was trying to do. I take it was an accident, but yeah, rear damage for no reason. And yeah, back end steps out, and now I'm thinking, bro, this is it. Race is done. 2.6 seconds. It's a wrap, bro. Neto's not even losing pace. He's if anything, he's getting quicker. So yeah, that was annoying. Because look, our lap time for the first time was going to be pretty damn slow. We were doing decent lap times. We were keeping up a good pace, but that there was probably our poorest lap of the race so far. So heading on to lap 9, we do, I think it was a 2:09. Lap 10, we back down to a 2:08 8.3. So we've done decent, forward it again to lap 11, and you can see the gap has stayed the same. We're still not managing to close the gap. Very, very consistent laps by Neto. The gap behind has gone up to 10 seconds. We're absolutely flying away from the rest of the field, but you know, still trying to leave the pressure on. And I was just where I knew something had to give. He had to have one little moment, man. Just one, anything that could slow him down, or if the tires start going off. Because when I did all the races before, a lot of people were having tire problems, because obviously with this track, you are using up a lot of tire, you know, especially through the first sector and the last sector. There's a lot of long, fast corners, and if your car's not balanced right, you're probably going to overturn or overuse the tires a little bit too much. And that's literally what I was banking on. But I was so surprised, man, because Neto just wasn't budging, man. The guy just had metronomic pace the whole way through, and I was trying to match it, but it was starting to get more and more tricky, man. Starting to get more tricky in the braking zones. I'm trying to make sure I'm hitting my marks all the time. But I think the double left-hander coming up is where I would say the car was starting to struggle. Most of the other corners, it was okay. A little bit after the S's in the first sector, it was a little bit understeer, but through here, I was struggling quite a bit. We managed to get it turned in this time though, but we tended to understeer a little bit in that corner. And now you'll see in the last sector, we were actually pretty fast, man. The car had some good rotation, so through here, I think a short shift up into 4th, just to get the car to turn a bit. And you can see we actually get the gap down quite a bit through this section, but on acceleration, the Porsche out of some of the slow corners was just so good, man. And it's tough. It's definitely tough, man. Trying to keep up with the mid-engine cars at the moment when you're in a front-engine car, because they have so much rotation. Now moving on to the next lap, you can see we've got the gap down to 2 seconds, and look at the gap behind, 20 seconds now. Bearing in mind, this guy for the first 3 or 4 laps was actually keeping up with us perfectly fine. All of a sudden, pace has just dropped, and I'm pretty sure he would have made a couple of mistakes, but it just shows you, man, like how much you lose when the setup's not great, or you know, you have a moment and you just cannot recover the same feeling in the car. And now look, we're literally 21 seconds ahead. Their lap times behind have absolutely died. They're back into the 2:11s, 2:10s, when at the majority of the time people were running 2:08s and 2:09s, and now look, they've just completely fallen off, man. And it was just insane. We had such consistent pace at the front, but Neto, all credit to him as well, he literally had consistent pace as well. Wasn't really falling off. I'll say only now his tires seem to be starting to give up a little bit, and this is where I had to try and make my move. But also, of course, I'm suffering with tire wear too. I've only got a couple of laps to go, and yeah, I'm trying to push, trying to make sure that I can close the gap as much as humanly possible, but it's just not easy, man. It's literally not easy. But it's a little bit wide at that hairpin. Let's see how much I can close it down. Gap down to 1.4 seconds, and I knew this was my strongest section once I got through this little double left-hander right here. I think through here the Porsche is just more nimble, more rotation, and I took a slightly narrow line there. So you see the gap goes back up to 1.7, and now normally this is where I'll start to close the gap back down through this section. We can just keep it slightly tighter, and we were able to really attack through this corner. So gap back down to like 1.4 seconds, and this is going to be close to see if we would have to do the extra lap. It's going to be very close indeed. Gap down, and through the last corner again. He was pretty fast on the entry into some of the corners, man. He seemed to have a lot of rotation, but he does a 2:08.9. We do a 2:08.3. So literally, you know, almost 6/10 faster on that lap. And it was very close to see whether we're going to get an extra lap as well. I was hoping we would get the extra lap, because I think he crossed the line as it went to a 2:08, so it was going to be very close. But I was just going to try and just send it on this lap, man. If I would have got within any sort of close distance, then I'm just going to send it into one of the corners, man. And I pushed through this section so hard, and you can see he's back end stepping out. He was definitely pushing, and the tires on the Porsche starting to give up. could we get within slipstream distance of the Porsche before the back straight? Because that's where I knew I definitely had a speed advantage. Send it over the curves, back in steps out just a little bit. We even get a little track warning there, but we keep our foot in. 8/10 difference, still a little bit too far back. Could I get a run? I think the Porsche is a little bit slow down the straight, but of course we just weren't that close, man. Not close enough to really be able to, you know, get on the back of him. But you can just see, you know, how much pace we had down the straight. He did seem not too bad, maybe about a tenth and a half difference. But into the braking zone, I'd seen he'd run wide maybe once or twice here earlier, but manages to nail it in this section. He had to keep pushing because I'm behind him, but at the same time, he would have wanted the race to end on this lap as well. So, you know, I was trying to make sure I could get as close as possible so he couldn't back off and make the race finish on this lap. But at the same time, he was, you know, still quick enough to gap us out of some of the most important corners. Again, through this section, you can see we tend to just make up time. I think we're probably about 2/10 faster through that little section, the right-handers, the long right-handers, into the last corner. But 5 seconds, 4 seconds, the race is about to end. Would he get to the line? Would we have to do another lap? No, he just manages to win the race. But what a race, man. Literally, lap for lap, stride for stride. Managed to match each other. And, man, that was some race. That was some going, man. And it is tough, bro. It is tough trying to catch some of these guys in this game. But it was a fantastic effort from Neto. Good race. And even though there wasn't too much action, it was just lap after lap, just trying to just stay consistent. And as I said before, guys, that is what you definitely need to work on. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Next time out, I'll probably try the Porsche, man. But anyway, Cryptic TNG, like and subscribe. Hit the notification bell to catch my videos first. Peace.
Right. Listen, I'm on the beat now, let's go. I'm shady, I roll with the techno. Swiss, that's frozen my wrist, but if you take the piss, I won't keep the techno. Like Remsen, old school and retro. Grab the beat by the throat, don't let go. So deep, full of G, stop the beat and start it again. I'll go from the intro. Skip flow, makes the girls dip low. Content keeps hot free on tiptoes. Flow sweet, second name should be Vimto. I'm an Audi.